The medals and trophies that once decorated my bedroom walls now lay scattered across the front lawn like discarded toys. Price tags fluttered from them like scarlet letters of betrayal. My mother haggled with a local sports shop owner over my gear, while my father loaded my training equipment into someone else's truck. $20 for an Olympic-level speed suit. A neighbor gasped, holding up my national team uniform. These cost hundreds. Everything must go, my mother chirped, as if unloading Christmas ornaments, not the tools of my decade-long swimming career. My son Marcus needs new football gear for his scholarship tryouts. I stood silently on the porch, recording it all on my phone. At 16, I had just earned one of the nation's most coveted Olympic training scholarships for swimming, something only 3 athletes in our entire state had ever achieved. The irony. Marcus had never even made varsity. 3 years, 3 rejections. Yet here they were, selling my dreams to fund his. "Sarah," my father called, holding up my custom training fins. "These are practically new. What should we ask for them?" I watched as my mother sold those fins, ones I'd saved for 6 months to buy, for a quarter of their value. Each item on that lawn represented early mornings, grueling nights, and sacrifices my family had never understood. "Your brother is the real athlete," Mom had screamed last night when I refused to turn down the scholarship. "He just needs proper equipment and support. You're being selfish." The real athlete in question was inside, probably playing video games, while our parents liquidated my swimming career in the yard. Marcus had always been their golden boy, destined in their minds for the NFL, despite lacking the talent or discipline. "Mrs. Anderson," my mother called to our neighbor, holding up a medal. "Would you like some silver medals? They're real. Aren't those Sarah's from last month's nationals?" she asked, frowning. "She doesn't need them anymore," my father interjected. "She's giving up swimming to support her brother." I hadn't said anything of the sort. But ever since the scholarship letter arrived, they'd been rewriting my story. "Think about your brother's future," they'd begged. "You can always keep swimming as a hobby." Hobby. That's what they called my Olympic-level accomplishments, while Marcus' fantasy football stats were treated like scouting reports. "Sarah, help us sort these trophies," Mom snapped when she spotted me filming. "Don't just stand there recording like some." She stopped mid-sentence. A sleek black SUV rolled up to the curb. Olympic rings gleamed on the door. My coach had warned me. The committee would visit today to finalize training arrangements. I told my parents, but they'd been too busy dreaming up Marcus' imaginary career. A distinguished man in a Team USA jacket stepped out, followed by my coach and 2 officials. "Is this the residence of Sarah Mitchell?" he asked. I walked down the steps calmly. "Practice isn't for another hour. But you've arrived just in time for the yard sale." Their eyes scanned the lawn. National team gear with bargain bin tags. Medals sold like trinkets. My mother froze, still holding my state championship trophy, priced at $5. "What is going on here?" my coach demanded, lifting my racing suit from a pile labeled cheap deals. "Just a little family disagreement," I replied, still recording. "Mom, Dad, you remember I mentioned the Olympic Committee visit today?" My father dropped a box of training gear. Expensive tech clattered to the pavement. "Sarah, sweetheart," my mother began, her voice suddenly syrupy. "We were just organizing your things." An official examined a price tag on my warm-up jacket. "Selling national team items," she said flatly. "That's problematic. Especially equipment funded by federal grants. Technically, that's government property." She took out her phone and began photographing everything. My parents' faces drained of color. From the window, Marcus finally appeared, blinking at the spectacle unfolding in our yard. "Perhaps," I said, stopping the recording, "we should go inside and discuss the legal consequences of selling Olympic team property. Then we can talk about my training schedule, assuming I still have my family's support." The officials nodded gravely. My parents looked like they might faint. As we stepped inside, I heard one official murmur into her phone, We're going to need the legal team on this. Sometimes support comes not from where you expect, but from where you've earned it. And sometimes, the biggest obstacle isn't your competitors. It's the people who were supposed to cheer the loudest. Inside, the air was thick with tension. The Olympic officials sat across from my stunned parents. Marcus hovered nearby, headset around his neck, as confused as ever. "Let me be clear," Mr. Thompson, the lead official, said firmly. "This scholarship is one of the highest honors an athlete can receive. It is not transferable, sellable, or negotiable." "We just thought," my mother started weakly. "You thought you could sell government-funded equipment to buy football gear." My coach snapped, his usual calm demeanor edged with fury. "Do you understand this could jeopardize Sarah's eligibility?" My parents shrank under the weight of the Olympic Committee's stare. Just hours ago, they'd been bold enough to sell my achievements in broad daylight. Now they couldn't even lift their eyes. "I have receipts," I said, pulling out my phone. "Videos, photos, everything they tried to sell. And recordings of them admitting why." Ms. Rodriguez, the committee's legal representative, gave a sharp nod. "Smart girl. We'll need copies." "This is ridiculous," Marcus suddenly blurted. "Mom and Dad said Sarah agreed to give up swimming to help me get into football." All eyes turned to me. "I never agreed to anything," I replied coolly. "They made that decision without asking me, just like they sold my equipment without permission." "Sarah," my father began. "No," I cut in. "You weren't thinking about the family. You were thinking about Marcus." Like always, the room went still. "How many of my meets did you miss to take him to football tryouts?" I asked. "How many national competitions did I get to alone because you were too busy chasing his dream?" Even Marcus looked uneasy. "Let me show you something," I said, connecting my phone to the TV. A video played. Years of footage my coach had collected. Me standing on podiums, breaking records, celebrating victories, with no family in sight. Clip after clip of empty stands. My coach at my side while my parents were somewhere else. Always with Marcus. "This was junior nationals," I narrated as the screen showed me breaking a state record. "They missed it to register Marcus for a football camp." Silence filled the room. My mother wiped her eyes. "We didn't know," she whispered. "You never asked," I said. "You were too busy building Marcus's non-existent career to see that I was actually living one." "That's not fair," Marcus snapped. "I could be great if..." "If what?" Ms. Rodriguez cut in sharply. "If your sister gives up her hard-earned success for you. That's not how sports work, young man. That's not how life works." Mr. Thompson cleared his throat. "Given everything we've seen, the committee is prepared to offer Sarah immediate residence at the Olympic Training Center. Full accommodations, education, and elite training." My parents' heads shot up. "You want to take her away?" my mother gasped. "No," Mr. Thompson said firmly. "We want to give her the support she clearly doesn't have here, the support she's earned. And," Ms. Rodriguez added, "we'll be launching a formal investigation into the attempted sale of official Olympic property. Expect legal documents soon." My coach stood. "Sarah, pack whatever's left of your gear. We'll replace the rest. Practice starts tomorrow." As I turned toward my room, Marcus followed. "Sarah, I didn't know they were selling your stuff," he said quietly. "I thought you wanted to quit." I looked at him, really looked. 4 years, he had been the vessel of our parents' hopes, regardless of whether he ever asked for it. In his own way, he was a victim too. "Here's some advice," I said as I packed the last of my belongings. "Find your own dream, Marcus. Not the version Mom and Dad made up for you." I did. Downstairs, the officials were preparing to leave. My parents sat in stunned silence. "Ready?" my coach asked. I nodded, then turned to my parents. "I'll send you my competition schedule," I said. "Come or don't. It won't change how I perform. I got this far without your support. I can make it to the Olympics the same way." As I walked out, my mother called softly after me. "Sarah, please." But I didn't turn back. I was already stepping into a future where my achievements wouldn't be sacrificed for someone else's dreams, and where the only person I needed to prove anything to was myself. 6 months later, I stood behind the blocks at the Olympic trials, adjusting the racing suit that now belonged to me. The stadium lights shimmered on the pool's surface, reflecting the steady rhythm of my heartbeat. My coach gave a nod from the sidelines. These last 6 months had transformed me, not just as a swimmer but as a person. I was finally surrounded by people who understood sacrifice, who valued merit over family fantasy. Then I saw them, unexpectedly, in the stands. My parents, Marcus, sitting awkwardly in the family section among rows of cheering supporters. They'd received my schedule, but this was the first time they'd actually shown up. The legal fallout had been rough. Fines, investigations, mandatory restitution. But worse than the penalties was the reckoning. They were finally forced to face the damage they'd done. None of that mattered now. Because when the whistle blew, I stepped onto the block. Not for them, not against them. For me. The only thing ahead was water, light, and everything I'd earned with no one's permission but my own. Marcus had enrolled in community college, pursuing sports management instead of clinging to impossible athletic dreams. For once, he wasn't chasing someone else's expectations. He was starting to build something of his own. Lane 4, Sarah Mitchell, the announcer's voice echoed through the arena. Current national record holder in the 200-meter butterfly. I stepped onto the block and took my mark. Everything else faded away. The noise, the cameras, the past. All that remained was the water. The buzzer sounded. Flew. 2 minutes and 3 seconds later I touched the wall. The crowd exploded. I already knew what it meant. I had qualified for the Olympics, shattering my own national record. As I climbed out of the pool, my teammates rushed me, pulling me into tight, tearful hugs. For the past 6 months, they had been more than teammates. They were my family. My coach, usually composed and stoic, was crying openly. "You did it, kid," he whispered, his voice thick with pride. "You really did it." Reporters swarmed. Microphones thrust forward. Cameras zoomed in. "Sarah, how does it feel to be the youngest qualifier on the Olympic team? Sarah, your journey has been unconventional. Do you have any comment on the family controversy that went viral?" Out of the corner of my eye, I saw my parents in the stands, pushing through the crowd. Marcus was filming on his phone. His expression a mix of awe and something that looked like understanding. I turned to the cameras. "My journey has taught me something," I said. "Success isn't about having everyone believe in you from the beginning. It's about believing in yourself enough to keep going when no one else does." Later, in the athletes' area, my parents approached hesitantly. My mother held a bouquet of flowers. My father clutched what looked like a scrapbook. "Sarah," my mother began, voice trembling. "We've been following all your meets online. You've been incredible. I've watched every live stream," Marcus added. "Every race. I even started a swimming blog. Did you know you have fans now?" I accepted the flowers silently, waiting. "We were wrong," my father said, finally opening the scrapbook. Inside were printouts of articles, rankings, headlines, everything I'd accomplished over the last 6 months. "We were so focused on creating an athlete," he continued, "that we missed the champion we already had." "I didn't need creators," I said softly. "I needed supporters. I already knew who I was." "We know that now," my mother whispered. Can we be there? In the stands. When you compete at the Olympics." I looked at them, really looked. The past 6 months hadn't just changed me. They had changed too. Marcus no longer wore his football jerseys. My mother no longer carried around his old training videos. My father had traded his future NFL dad cap for a plain Team USA 1. "You can be there," I said finally. But not as parents trying to control the journey. As spectators, watching me create my own. "That's fair," my father said, voice thick with emotion. "More than fair," my coach called from behind. "Team meeting starting." We've got Olympic schedules to plan. As I turned to join him, Marcus called out, "Hey, Sarah, that thing you said in your interview? About believing in yourself when no one else does. Get it now?" I finally get it. Smiled genuinely. Maybe that was the real victory. As I walked away, I heard my mother asking my coach, "Is there a support group for Olympic parents?" He laughed. "Yes, but it's for parents who support their kids' dreams, not try to replace them." That evening, as I stood on the podium to receive my Olympic trials medal, the stadium lights danced across the water below. I looked up and thought about beginnings. Some journeys start with a single step, others with a dive into deep water, and some with the courage to stand your ground when everyone tells you to step aside. My journey was far from over. But for the first time, I wasn't being driven by anyone else's dreams. I had something stronger than expectation. I had belief in myself, in my future, in the path I chose. Because sometimes the hardest race isn't in the pool. It's the one where you swim against the current of others' expectations, to find your own way to victory.